Yeah. Awesome.
Woo! Hey, everybody.
Here we are. Okay.
What's happening?
Thanks to Fast Mail, right?
Yep. It
For
is fast mail.
sponsoring this episode. Okay.
All right. Let's see.
All right.
I'm about to record.
Great.
Oh, okay.
I see us in the... Here we go. I'm going to quote. I got that. What about Fast Mail? Is this... let's see. Oh, yeah, that's them. Okay. Awesome. And Wednesday, Friday of each week. Here we go. Okay. That's out.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Let me mute while I clear my throat here. All right. I think it's just the blue shirt, the baby blue, that makes me look redder today than
Maybe.
usual.
Yeah. I mean, the camera balance always
I
gets
was
weird.
outside. I was outside all weekend working.
Sure.
So that might have been it, but that's
I don't
okay.
know.
A
Yeah.
healthy glow.
It's a healthy glow as long as your skin doesn't start bubbling.
Exactly. Sloughing off. I actually have a
What
story.
a great word that is.
Sloughing.
Sloughing. Oh,
I have
it
a
is
great
so
story about
descriptive.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I do that. There's no relevance to it, so maybe I could just tell it before we start. But when I was selling Tech Restore, I was at some event and I got so sunburned that when the guy came out that eventually bought the company and we met face to face for the first time,
Yeah.
my forehead, I have a rather large forehead, and my forehead looked like a Dutch Crunch piece of bread. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about,
I'm
right?
sorry to laugh. It's just such a perfect picture.
It was hilarious. And I told him, I said, hey, I just want to let you know before we meet that I've had this tremendous sunburn and my skin is sloughing off. And he's like, oh, whatever, Shannon, no big deal. And I walked in, I met him at Panera for breakfast, and he was like, whoa, you were right, you know, and yeah. But it did not deter him from buying the company, which I thought,
he
which
wound
was,
up buying
which
it
was,
anyway.
yeah, he wound up buying it anyway. But I thought that was a funny story
That's really funny.
when you're saying slough.
Slough. Yeah, it's a great word.
Is it spelled Slough?
That's how I believe it is spelled. Yeah,
Amazing.
hang on.
Good, look it up.
I have
That's
Google
so
Maps
funny,
up here,
dude.
so
Sloughing off.
slough.
It's got to be it.
Yeah, the dead outer skin shed by
my
a reptile
gosh.
or amphibian.
Oh, that's it. That was me. I definitely have had some reptile skin issues, but yeah.
That's really
anyway,
funny.
I know. All right, I am officially ready to start. Let me pull up my notes.
Yeah.
Anytime you want. Okay.
Let's do it. I will move that there. And here goes. Oh, no, nothing. Business Brain, episode 561 for Wednesday, June 26th, National Barcode Day, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take a few ideas, some that have been swimming around in our heads, some from yours. We dissect them, we digest them, we analyze them, we use them to tune our collective and individual business brains every single time we get together. Fastmail.com/businessbrain is our sponsor, and that's also where you're going to go to try it out free for 30 days, and then you get 10% off your first year. We'll give more details about that a little later in the episode. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And out here in the sunny west coast of California, I'm Shannon. Gene, how are you, man?
I'm good. We had crazy lightning storms. We actually had a tornado warning here, which is odd for New England. Yeah,
That is odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
The weather is crazy back there. I mean, I deal with the earthquake thing out here,
Right.
but it doesn't really happen that often. It's kind of fun when they don't, kill anybody, but for the most part, it's not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. We had tornado warnings when I lived at like tornado warnings, and then also tornadoes when I lived in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
In Austin. But yeah, here it's rare to see a tornado. Like when it came across, it was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, all right.
I love
maybe
that
we
story.
should pay attention to that.
Yeah, when you first moved out there and your neighbor's like, so what generator do you have? And you're like, I don't know. We're kind of thinking about it, whatever. He's like,
Yeah.
Okay, you better,
Yeah.
you better think about it.
No, our power was off for about 7 hours last night. And
Okay.
our generator, now we have an automatic generator.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
nice.
kicked right in. And, we cooked dinner. We did all the things. And it was like, man, are we spoiled? Talk about charmed life.
Yeah,
The generator.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have to. Yeah.
Yep.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
Hey, so we have a very interesting topic today that I want to get into, but I want to talk about this. I listened to this other podcast called the Founders Podcast. Great. This guy, gosh, I forget his name, of course, but I'm sure you'll find it while I'm talking.
Sure.
And he talks about books that he's read, and he's been
Is this
on
David
a Steve.
Senra? Is that
That's
right?
it. Yeah,
All
David
right,
Senra. It's really good, high energy, talks fast. Yeah, that's him. And I really like it, especially when I'm driving. It really gets me to think about concepts. And he was doing a kind of a run on Steve Jobs' books lately. And one of the topics that he discussed that I really like is this concept of a simple stick that Steve used.
Yep.
That he used to like beat people with it, and it was not figuratively, although
Okay,
maybe he would have liked to, but
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was just constantly beating down on their products to simplify, and not just their products, but their advertising, their every aspect of what they were doing was just to remove and just continually remove and take things out. And I thought about it, and it's like, it's pretty valuable. Just when you're thinking about like how the messaging you're giving to your customers and your product design, how your website works, just I maybe all entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to kind of want to do a lot of stuff. Maybe it's because our brains have a lot of stuff going on, and
Sure.
we can manage a wider bandwidth of stuff or whatever. But I like it. I recommend you listen to it. It's pretty cool. Great while you're driving, and like one of the famous examples is when iMovie first came out. I'm sure you know the story, Dave. And they were showing it to Steve, and it had all this bells and whistles and software. It's going to do this, going to do that, and all this kind of stuff. And Steve got up and said, no, here it is. And he drew a square on the whiteboard and said, record, publish, and it's like, this is it. This is the software. And, it was just boiling it down to the most simple thing. So when someone looked at it, they could immediately think about, well, what's this going to do for me? How easy is it to use? And it really struck me, and I've been trying to think more and more about that on how I use that concept.
All right, folks. You ever wonder how I managed to juggle work, personal life, and still find time to train my army of ninja cats? Well, it's all thanks to our sponsor, Fastmail. Yes, Fastmail is my secret weapon for a charmed email life. I've been using Fastmail for over 5 years now, and it's like having a personal assistant that doesn't steal my snacks. Here's why. Fastmail is an independent, employee-owned email provider that's been around for over 20 years. No ads, no creepy data sharing, just a premium inbox experience with features that actually value my time. And they'll do this for you too, of course. For as little as $5 a month, you get a private inbox with Fastmail. Got a partner? Great. Their Duo plan has you covered. Need to manage the whole family's emails? The family plan handles up to 6 people. And for your business, Fastmail offers powerful admin controls too. With Fastmail, you can customize your workflow with colors, custom swipes, night mode, and more. They've got productivity features like scheduled send, snooze, and a super efficient search bar. Plus, you can now buy a domain directly through Fastmail, and they'll set it up for you. Fastmail's human support team is available 24/7, and if you're switching to Fastmail, it's a breeze. Just download your data and import it They have all the tools for you to do this. No stress, no hassle. So if you want to make email work for you and maybe even find time to train your army of ninja cats, head over to fastmail.com/businessbrain. This is where you can make email better for you with Fastmail. Try Fastmail free for 30 days and get 10% off your first year at fastmail.com/businessbrain. And our thanks to Fastmail for sponsoring this episode. All right. So, hey Shannon, how you doing?
I'm interested in this topic because
yeah, I know.
You texted me. It might have been pretty late at night too. No, that was the other one.
It would have been. No,
yeah,
it might have been late at night.
A Slack message. Normally, Dave's on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. So when I get pinged from Slack, 1 a.m. or whatever it is from Dave, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. What's up? And sure enough, it was good. So tell me the story.
So we're in the process of potentially selling an interest in a business that I never talk about here. And there have been a variety of reasons for that, mostly because my partners have asked that we don't attach
Makes
ourselves
sense.
to the business. Yeah. But what it does is it gives me the freedom to have this conversation on the show in the midst of this. Yeah, I think. I guess if this episode comes out, then the answer is yes. So we've gone through all kinds of due diligence, and we're at the point where the attorneys are, or where the contracts are being drawn up, right? And
all right.
Their attorneys, they said, we'll have our attorneys draw things up. Like, fine, great, no problem.
Okay, sure.
So we also have an attorney, actually a couple of attorneys that work on this deal for us. And so they sent over, there's basically two agreements. I'm sure there'll be more, but there's the purchase and sale agreement,
all right.
that talks about that.
Yep.
Pretty basic. And then because they're buying into the existing business and we would stick around, they want to redraw the operating agreement of the company. Also makes perfect sense.
Because they'll be involved in that
Correct.
kind of thing, right? Yeah, totally makes sense.
What made sense for us 6 years ago does not really make sense for this kind of scenario. It's all good. So fine.
Okay.
So we get the purchase and sale and we have our attorney go through it. And he comes back and he's like, well, there's two things here that I think we need to, two main things, some other minor things that we need to push back on. One was they had these exhaustive representations and warranties. Essentially the thing, because they are buying into the company, they're not just doing an asset purchase, which means that the company is still liable for anything that the company would be liable for, and now they're part of that. And so there's some warranties that they put in the contract that they would want us to do. And some level of that is standard. What they put in was, according to my attorney and the chief partner at his term, clauses like the likes of which we have never seen before.
Oh, wow.
Like, okay, fine. Yeah. And then they also want the jurisdiction for a future dispute to be in New York State. I will just tell you, the company has no nexus in New York State. None of the partners, current or future, are located in New York State. The business is not organized in New York State. It does no business in New York State. New York State would throw this out of court. And anybody that knows anything about the way U.S. law works knows that. Like, they would not allow us. They would do everything they could to not let us.
There's no reason to have,
Correct. Yeah. And states don't want other states' problems, chewing up their resources. Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. Well, so we pushed back on both of these things. And the way we pushed back was by rewriting the representations and warranties to be something far closer to reasonable, right?
Okay, sure.
As I explained it when I was talking to the CEO sort of after this, or during the story you're about to hear, I said it was as though we both know that something is worth $50. They proposed a $1 value on it. Instead of coming back and proposing a $100 value from our side, we proposed something more like $55. Like,
okay, sure.
Something more akin to what it would be. But we left a little bit in our favor-ish. Like one would, and we figured they would have a tweak of it,
a little pushback, and
correct, and they said no, we must go with ours. So instead of saying no, it's $45, they said no, it's $1.
Oh,
okay, and then they also pushed back on the jurisdiction thing, saying no, it must be in New York, and they cited some statutes that even the hack lawyer in me knew were being interpreted incorrectly.
Wow.
Yeah. And so at this point now, I'm frustrated because we've been we're going to work with these people. They're literally going to be our partners. And so I've been very much focused on building that partnership environment, right? Because I know how that can help. And now getting this from their lawyers, I was like, all right, I need, and I did. This was like on a Wednesday. I sent out an email to everybody, already having cleared the time frame with our attorneys and all of the principals on my side. And I said, we need all the stakeholders, and we have a deadline coming up that is imposed by none of us. It's a state thing that's happening for one of the partners where it would be best if the deal were closed relatively soon.
All right.
Okay, fine. And so I said, look, we need to get all of us together, and we've got this deadline, and now, these contracts are not going anywhere near where they need to. We need to talk, and I need all the stakeholders and at least some representatives from their legal team. And my plan was to get there and say, like, these lawyers are going to kill the deal.
Yeah, that's right. Very,
right?
That's not uncommon. It happens.
No, it totally happens.
Not
of
uncommon.
Course. No, lawyers. And here's the thing. I told my lawyer this too. I said, if given the opportunity, a lawyer would kill every deal because no deal is going to be perfect, and no one's perfectly protected in any deal. You've got to throw some faith in there. And at some point, it's up to the principals to push the attorneys aside, figure out what faith they're going to throw in, and then tell the attorneys, here's where the lines are. You draw them with legalese. Right. And that's totally fine. They are tools. They are valuable service providers, but they are not the decision makers.
Yeah,
fine.
that's it.
All good. Like this, and this is fine. But we were at that moment, and we didn't have a lot of time. And so I wanted to just get and we weren't moving at all. And so I wanted to get everybody together and basically call out this other legal team for not. I wanted to see how the principal on the other side reacted when I called out their legal team for not sort of playing the...
Yeah, it's kind of bad. I don't want to say bad faith, but it's just a waste of everybody's time.
It's a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't... And everybody said, okay. There were some begrudging okays, but there were okays from the legal team, especially on the other side. And except the CEO of the company that's the principal on the other side, the primary principal, could not, there was zero chance that this person could make the meeting. I was like, okay, crap. So I had a short conversation with him, and I said, there's 3 or 4 issues that I need to point out. And so I'm going to do it via email tonight. And he and I were able to talk like early the next morning. I said, but I'll articulate them. I was in the car. I was like, I can't type this while I'm in the car. I can't even, we all need to do this. So I thought, well, I'll just send an email to everybody. So I did. In the interim, between that conversation and when I sent the email, we also got our attorney's feedback on the proposed operating agreement, which was, again, in my attorney's words, the most one-sided thing I've ever seen in my life. It basically had us having no say in what happened. They could... an operating agreement for a company, any kind of company in the U.S., has an implied, not even implied, stated fiduciary duty of all the partners. Fiduciary duty, for anybody listening, means that everybody involved agrees to act in the best interests of the company at all times.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Fine. That is there, that is there by presumption in U.S. law, unless it is specifically excluded. Their lawyers excluded it. They said they could issue new shares at any point in time, essentially diluting our remaining interest, and that they could fold up the company at any time they wanted. And
That's
we
ridiculous.
had no right. So it was like,
Just ridiculous.
Now I was already frustrated by what was going on with the purchase and sale. Now I was pissed. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. So I put together an email and I started by saying, hey, I would prefer to do this face-to-face because, or at least on a, phone call or Zoom call interactively, because when I lodge complaints, I like to, I don't like to just lob bombs and walk
it's hard
away.
There's no nuance.
There's no
email.
nuance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather do this in person. The timing says that we can't. And so here I am having, I'll lay it all here. And I said the fundamental problem, which I will articulate, is that the attorneys from such and such a firm have been putting together very one-sided agreements and are not willing to budge at all. And then I articulated all the things that I just said for you. And I think at one point I said, I was pissed that I paid my attorney to review this. Yeah. I can only imagine how pissed the other people are that they paid their attorneys to draft this.
Right.
And I said,
knowing that it was going to be completely unacceptable.
Nobody's going to take this. And, and I said, and I don't know why such and such a firm is even bothering to present this kind of crap. That's as far as I went with any sort of colorful language, let's say. Like I didn't go any farther with that. I wanted to, but I left it out. I figured we'll just fine. And so I said, I'm looking forward. And what I said, and this was to me the money phrase, although I'm not sure it landed, is we need to stop negotiating and start collaborating.
I like that.
Otherwise,
That hit me
this
good.
deal's not going to go anywhere. Yeah.
Nailed it. I thought. Nailed it. Yeah.
So that's the part you know. The part you don't know is I had a conversation early the next day with the CEO on the other side. He said, well, I understand how you feel. He's like, I like to let the attorneys kind of just do their jobs and stay out of it until they hit a roadblock, and then you and I can step in and decide how to address the roadblock.
It's expensive.
I was like, okay, but he's like, what? You don't want to spend the money? It's going to be like 10 hours. And I'm like, okay.
Dude.
Let's say it's going to be 10 hours. You put that on the table. I'm willing to pay for 10 hours of my attorney's time. Whatever. That's $3,500 if they're $350 an hour or something like that. I'm sure that's what they are. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, well, I'll do 10 hours of this. Like you asked, I'll play along. Sure. I said, but did you read the operating agreement? Is that what you want? And he's like, well, I read it, but I don't quite understand it. And then he started asking me, like, how do you know that, like, the New York State thing won't work out? I'm like, well, I'm a pretty good hack lawyer. And also, my lawyer told me it won't. So that's how I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Your guys are incompetent. Like, I didn't use that word, but there was certainly an implication there that Dave, the hack lawyer, is better than, and, but that was it. He was like, please work with my attorneys. Great. So I said, I called my attorneys and I said, let's fine. Like, here's the thing. Okay. I told them the 10 hours thing. Their eyebrows raised higher than mine did. I'm like, I know. Do this. Let me know when we hit 10 hours because I have the second volley to fire when we do. I said, but
that's crazy.
But like, go there. And they're like, okay, they want to meet with us later today. So they met with them. And there were two of my attorneys on the call and two of their attorneys on the call. And one of their attorneys was very much he wanted to be a deal maker.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And this was an interesting thing because my attorneys told us, they said, we understand that attorneys can kill deals. We also don't want that reputation because we won't get more business if we get too much of that reputation. He's like, certainly deals die. He's like, but we like to be deal makers, not deal breakers. And I was like, oh, what a good phrase. I like that. Yes. Great. Yeah. Right. Yep. And so one of the guys on the other end was the deal maker saying, please, would you send along your things, but don't just send them as you did via email, like redline the agreement. That makes it easier for me to show my client what is going on. And my attorney was like, that seems like a waste of time. He's like, I know, but please try it my way. Fine, we'll try it your way. The other guy on the call was super egotistical and pissed. I got under his skin. No, I
No?
think it was. What did my attorney say? I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. He said it was as though we insulted his manhood, or as though I insulted his manhood. He was like, it's totally unprofessional for that guy to email us. And my attorney was like, clients talk all the time, especially when they're about to be business partners.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is super normal, buddy. You're just butthurt that this guy got your goat, I guess.
That's
and
crazy.
he was like eating his lunch while they talked to show that he was being dismissive.
How unimportant this call
How
was.
unimportant this was. And he
course.
threatened a couple times to kill the deal. And I said to my attorney, I was like, well, it's a good thing it doesn't matter because I'm not doing a deal with that guy.
Yeah,
But
that's
you know,
right.
and they were like, well, he threatened to have his client kill the deal. I'm like, well, the deal maker guy is the partner at the firm, right? This guy's just of counsel. They're like, yeah, how'd you know that? I'm like, because I looked on their website. He's like, yeah, that's correct. I'm like, well, I know which one has the final say in what they advise their client to do.
It's so frustrating, and it is such a waste of time. And it's almost
Super
like,
waste of time.
everything has like a life cycle it has to go through. But, I often
but
say
why?
I can't. Why? And I think some of it, they want to justify being involved. And, hey, we've got to charge a certain amount. We're not going to do this unless we can bill out X number of hours. And
Fair.
but it's super frustrating, but crucially important that you dig into these documents because, like you said, you're going to be married to these people, and for some period of time anyway. And so you got to look out for your best interest, and you can't just leave it to your attorney.
No.
They can help guide you, but you got to be reading these these documents, and
this to me is also a litmus test for the principals on the other side. If this is how they want their attorneys to negotiate this, I don't know that we made the right decision heading down this path with them.
Yeah, it is. It's a test, right? It's a test.
It's a litmus test. Absolutely. And I'm really curious. Once we hit the 10 hours, and I'll happily say this on the show, even though the other attorneys don't know it, because it'll be fine because I'm going to do it anyway. Once we hit the 10 hours, I'm just going to step in and say, okay, look, hey, I know you guys want to do it this way and you're just delegating everything to your attorneys. I don't work that way. I like to be able to read all this stuff. So
Of course.
I will now be the primary point of contact for your attorneys. I'm not
they will
I'm not
love that.
firing my attorney.
Yeah.
Right, they're going to love this, I know.
They'll love that.
Th-
I've done
I'm
the
not
same thing
firing
where
firing my attorney. I'm going to use him, and once we decide what the primary points of the deal are, then I'm going to bring my attorney back in to write it up and make sure I'm protected.
Correct. I like that method because
Same.
you're closer to the deal, and you know the business, and you know the ins and outs.
Yes.
And yes, your attorney should be there by your side, but
And
not
he will be. Yeah, I'm not
but-
firing him at all.
Correct.
Not even close.
And I mean, I've had it many times where my attorney would be like, hey, I can certainly write this letter, but you know more about this. Why don't you write the letter? Send me a copy. I'll make sure we add whatever legal stuff we need to get, or you don't say anything that could be problematic, and then we'll send it off. And I love doing that stuff because
that's my normal MO.
Exactly. It's like, I want you to support me, not do it for me, right? So
How could they do it for you? They don't
know it. They don't know it. Yeah,
unless they're like an employee or partner in the business or what. I've certainly seen that where people bring attorneys in, of course. But man.
Head legal counsel or something like that. But
and that's great if that's the case. But in this business, that's me.
That's crazy, dude.
So
but I do think, and a lot of people take it that this willingness to collaborate instead of always negotiate, you shouldn't see it as a sign of weakness. It's actually, you're not going to give up you're still making the same points, but it's like, hey, let's figure it out together. And it should be, you get to that reasonable point of accommodation.
Yes.
Where you're not going to get everything you want.
Nobody gets everything.
Nobody gets everything. But if you both get enough to get the deal over the finish line, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, you get the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
The other people get the things that are important to them. And if you have an impasse, then that's actually where a deal maker attorney can be great, because they can throw out a thing where they're like, hey,
Right.
here's I've seen another deal that got to a point like this, and here's a third option that neither one of you have asked for
Yes.
that could be the answer. And, they
Yeah,
need
it's
to.
good. And they're not
there's
emotional.
egos.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be emotional.
They shouldn't be, unlike this other guy.
Unlike this guy.
But, yeah.
I love that I got under his skin, by the way.
Yeah. That's
My
good.
attorneys loved it too. They were super happy. They were like, we couldn't have told you to send that letter. I'm like, I know. That's why I didn't ask you before I sent it. They're like, but we love that you did. I'm like, right,
and this whole thing of keeping the parties apart, I don't think that's good for the deal. Maybe it's good for one side or another for the attorneys to bill more money and try to get crazy favorable terms and get something for that. But it doesn't help get deals done.
And I wonder, for the months that we've been going through due diligence, we've been very collaborative on our side. And same, it seemed the same from the other side. And I wonder if that was misinterpreted as being not willing to hold our ground.
Yeah, maybe. I think it often is, in the sense that, we're pretty friendly. Like I used to say, hey, don't mistake my, friendliness for weakness, right? I want to be, easy to work with, but we're just not going to roll over and take whatever deal comes along.
I'm not going to take a bad deal.
No, it's not. It's not even about the money. Well, I mean, it is, but you're especially in the point where it's one thing if you're selling and just walking away, but if you're going to work with these people, it's crucial that you work with these people.
And I even told a week and a half ago, I told the CEO of the other side, I was like, okay, let's pretend the deal is done. Yeah. Like we started a Zoom call and I'm like, let's pretend the deal is done. Congratulations. It's all good. Okay. It's behind us. Now I want to talk about the first month and then the first 6 months of what we're going to do together. And we did have that conversation and it went well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, sign. Okay, but I needed that to see what's this going to be like. But then in parallel to that, we've got this hard-nosed thing going on. I'm curious to see where but what I do know is that the other attorneys were yelled at by their client. Now, he never told me that.
Yeah.
Nor should he have. Right. But
right. Sure.
It was clear they were chastised for putting everybody in this position, which is good. Maybe it's that to me was the best sign that we might be able to still work with the folks on the other,
and sometimes it's also their client may not have communicated what they wanted.
That's right.
And
he truly may have delegated.
And I've been on the other side of the table with attorneys like this before where, they're just, pedal to the metal, super aggressive. And then you talk to the other party, you're like, hey, is this what you wanted? I mean, because, we're not going to achieve much with this. And they go, oh, no, I didn't tell them to do that, and maybe do a reset. So hopefully you're on the right track. Yeah,
well,
hopefully you're on the right track. Keep us posted.
Several days of radio silence. So
that's part of the negotiation.
I know. I get that. But
yeah, that's cool. Well, keep us posted. Come back and share with us.
I'll let you know if the deal happens or not.
Yeah.
I assumed when I sent that email off the other night that I was blowing up the deal. And my partners knew it too. Like this wasn't just me flying off the handle solo.
Yeah, because you can't do the deal under those terms.
Correct.
That's it. Yeah.
Correct. We're not desperate by any stretch.
Correct. Yeah. Right on. Well, thanks for sharing that.
yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get me in trouble. I think we can publish this, though. I feel all right about it.
Great.
Folks, let us know what you think. Feedback at businessbrain.show. Make sure to check out fastmail.com/businessbrain. And keep living that charmed life, huh? We'll see you on Friday. All right. We're out.
Good. That's great. That's a good story.
It is.
Yeah. So the 70 or so folks that are watching the live stream, now we're in between episodes. So Dave is going to do a few things, get the content ready for us to publish later. We're lazy podcasters, so we like to get stuff easy and up as quick as we can. Keeps things going forward. God, if I had to do hours of prep, it would be Like even messing last week with Hindenburg again.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, what do I got to get this? I got to do that. I'm like, that's a lot of.
Well, you're
lot
not
of time.
doing it all the time either. Like
no,
that.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But it reminded me how much nicer it is to just go right to Auphonic, which is a service that we use. That what is the? I understand but for our audience, what does Auphonic do?
Auphonic takes the audio file that we have created, but that you just heard us record, and it processes the audio to smooth it out. If we try to get really consistent, smooth audio,
highs and lows and that kind of thing,
highs and lows are compressed and normalized. It applies a little bit of equalization, sort of across the board, to make it sound good in like cars and things like that. And it also, and I'm doing two things at once here.
Yeah, I know. And now I can, it does some AI stuff like transcript, and
it also does a transcript. And then it adds all the metadata to the file, like the chapters are in there, the name, it'll put the logo in, like, and then Auphonic also uploads it to the place where you all download it from. So
that's cool. Yeah, it's a great piece of software.
But the audio processing, and it normalizes the levels so that it's kind of balanced with where it should be and all that stuff. So I've pushed the file up to Auphonic, and now the only thing I need to do is clean up the chapters.
Terrific. Yeah, because I always get that, shouldn't say always, often get the question, what do I need? What's all the stuff I need to buy to start my podcast? And so I always try to keep it very simple, and talk about just getting it done and starting to record being the most important thing. I find
Auphonic obviously didn't exist when we first started podcasting, but I did all of the things that Auphonic does by hand initially, the multi-band compression and all that. Then there was a tool called the Levelator that came out really early on, first year of podcasting or so, maybe 18-month mark. And that did a lot of the audio processing. And I probably used that for 7 or 8 years, long after they stopped developing it. And then I found Auphonic, and it was like, all right, great. That's what we're going to now.
That's cool. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Very cool.
I'm almost finished here.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this, we have a mystery intro topic that Dave's going to talk about, which I have no idea what it is.
Get himself in trouble again.
Yes, and then we're going to talk about teaching risk. And different cycles that I've got some questions about that I want to have a discussion so I can learn to help other people.
Great. Cool. All right. And here goes nothing. Business Brain, episode 562 for Casual Friday, June 28th, National Food Truck Day 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take an idea or four and analyze it. We identify it. We poke holes at it. We look at it. We spin it around. We use it to tune our business brains every single time we get together. Our sponsor for this episode is fastmail.com/businessbrain. That's where you can go to try it free for 30 days, and then you save 10% off your first year. We'll talk more in depth about Fastmail, which is my favorite email provider that I've been using for 5 years, in a little bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And out here in Northern California, I'm Shannon Jean. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's Food Truck Day, so I was reminded of a thing that's sort of been happening in our town. We have this new food truck pod. It's a brew pub.
A brewery or tap house? Oh, okay.
It's a tap house and food truck pod. There's like 6 to 10 food trucks there all the time. It's really fascinating, and it's been fantastic. It's become like the meeting place in town, and it's great.
It's great.
They are doing fine. This is not about them, what I'm about to talk about here.
Okay.
But it reminded me of them because we all know that bad reviews on social media are undesirable.
They are.
I mean,
very much so.
We've talked about it. We've done episodes on it. There's different ways to handle them, all of that. But one thing that I would think would be an odd choice to make would be essentially to create your own bad reviews.
I would agree with that statement.
There is another restaurateur in town who, I don't know if they realize this, but that is exactly what they are doing. They are constantly complaining about how not enough people go to their restaurants, how other restaurants are taking their business away, and you need, and then shaming people for, you need to eat local. You should stay in our town and eat. And, their restaurant is downtown. This food truck thing is like just on the outskirts of downtown. They're like, that place is taking away business. It's like, no, I had stopped going to your place before that other food truck place was even like an idea that I knew about.
Well, yeah, even if you feel that way, posting it or in social media, not the best thing. Just
don't. And it's and I've tried. I know the people that I know this restaurateur. Our kids, kind of grew up together ish, and I've tried having this conversation with them, and they don't hear it. Yeah. Everything is there's a boogeyman. Right. And it's like, no, maybe you're your own boogeyman.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing you have a conversation like in a peer group, like if you're at the Chamber of Commerce or you have other group of business people and you're frustrated, certainly you share those frustrations. Like, they're taking all my business. And then you listen when they say, hey, dude, actually, I would make these changes to try to get some of that business back or something, but collaborating with other people in your industry can really help be a resource for you, right?
Smart thing. Yeah.
But you do have to, we all have those kind of complaints. It's just, there's no getting around it, but doing it publicly, it's also the same as responding to a negative review online and you're calling somebody out or doing that doesn't work. It actually does the opposite. Yeah, you want to be very positive, talk about how much you value people, this kind of thing. But
I'm sorry you had that experience. Please let us make it up to you. Right.
Of course, here's the changes that we've done to implement. Even if it made you angry and you think the customer's nuts or whatever, that's normal. That's just normal.
Just don't say it.
Yes, you could say it.
In this, they called group out. Yes. Right. But in this post, the most recent one, and this is like very typical. It was like, you can, whenever we have a bad review, it's always made up to those people, but they never come back and post more. And the people that have great experiences at our place never post anything good. And it's like,
that's the wrong look. So what do you do to encourage positive reviews? We've had
people a $5 coupon, whatever.
You got it. Please come back, show us and incentivize them, offer discounts, people. You got to get someplace you can talk.
Man.
No. You need a safe space.
Yes. Vent all you need to, but not to your potential customers.
Yeah. And I would say don't do it around your employees either, because that impacts the way they look at your customers, which in turn impacts the way they interact, the way they treat them, the service that they offer. You want to hold your customers in high regard. It's not that the customer's always right. No, not saying that. But in general, a positive viewpoint of the people that are paying your bills, that's the way to go.
All right, folks. You ever wonder how I managed to juggle work, personal life, and still find time to train my army of ninja cats? Well, it's all thanks to our sponsor, Fastmail. Yes, Fastmail is my secret weapon for a charmed email life. I've been using Fastmail for over 5 years now, and it's like having a personal assistant that doesn't steal my snacks. Here's why. Fastmail is an independent, employee-owned email provider that's been around for over 20 years. No ads, no creepy data sharing, just a premium inbox experience with features that actually value my time. And they'll do this for you too, of course. For as little as $5 a month, you get a private inbox with Fastmail. Got a partner? Great. Their Duo plan has you covered. Need to manage the whole family's emails? The family plan handles up to 6 people. And for your business, Fastmail offers powerful admin controls too. With Fastmail, you can customize your workflow with colors, custom swipes, night mode, and more. They've got productivity features like scheduled send, snooze, and a super efficient search bar. Plus, You can now buy a domain directly through Fastmail, and they'll set it up for you. Fastmail's human support team is available 24/7, and if you're switching to Fastmail, it's a breeze. Just download your data and import it. They have all the tools for you to do this. No stress, no hassle. So if you want to make email work for you and maybe even find time to train your army of ninja cats, head over to fastmail.com/businessbrain. This is where you can make email better for you with Fastmail. Try Fastmail free for 30 days and get 10% off your first year at fastmail.com/businessbrain. And our thanks to Fastmail for sponsoring this episode. All right, Shannon, you were talking to me about, go.
I need some business therapy, Dave.
All right.
So I have my coaching business, and I'm talking to more and more people. And one of the things that comes up all the time is risk tolerance. How much risk should I take? How much risk? And the way it usually comes up is, oh, I've read all your stuff or read a bunch of your stuff, and it seems like you take risks all the time. And it kind of set me back a bit because I feel responsible, for obviously for the advice I give these clients. So I want to have a discussion and talk about like what are acceptable, and maybe I don't know that we can narrow it down because maybe it's different for everybody, but I would love to have like a grading scale of acceptable risks based on a couple things. It's not just age. It's also the cycle of your life that you're in, right?
Yeah. I would say it's more the cycle of your life than your age. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I have taken a lot of risk, but at some point I stopped taking wipeout risk, right? So that's like let's start there. Okay. That's the highest level of risk, meaning that if you do some deal and that deal went sideways, you're done. The only way out is to like declare bankruptcy or something like that, which sounds horrific to me.
Yeah.
So
I know people who have done that and
me too.
Wildly succeeded, by the way.
Yeah.
Because they learned that what they thought was wipeout risk is not. I equate that, and this has been true for me with every amount of risk that I've taken, but I'm going to talk about it on the pain scale. You have that 1 to 10 pain scale?
Yeah.
I used to fill out things like 8s or 9s or whatever because, you think you know where 10 is. And then, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I fell on the ice. Long story short, a doctor that was treating me actually wound up hurting me more than they were treating me and bruised my diaphragm.
Ooh.
Shannon.
That sounds bad, dude.
I had to cough, like just sitting on my couch. I had to cough or sneeze. I think it was cough. And I knew that my body was either going to pass out or I was going to vomit. And I wasn't going to get a choice in this, but this is what was going to happen to me when I coughed because of how much this hurt. It
I don't mean to
turns
laugh,
out,
but
it's fine. It turns out neither of those things happened. I made it through. And what that told me in that moment, my pain scale completely reoriented. I still don't know where 10 is. I also know that anything that I had put in the past as a 7, 8, or 9 was also incorrect. Those were all 4s.
That's a good point.
And now I even treat pain differently. Like that moment changed my brain. And the same thing has happened with risk.
Yep.
I would go ahead.
I would agree. No, I mean, I made a $1 million mistake. I've talked about it here on the show a bunch of times, and I've learned a ton. At the time, when I was going through it, I didn't know how I was going to recover from it, but I was determined to recover. So I understand that concept, and it's like this scale of 1 to 10 is the same with risk. Right?
And that's what I'm saying. And I think you need to recalibrate it regularly.
Okay. So I like that. I mean, if it happens, something happens, you'll figure it out. You're going to get through it. Right. Yep. Because I would argue that, and my good friend who was my attorney at the time, he had always told me, I had a lot of success early on. And he said, hey, just watch out, because I don't know a single wealthy person that has not lost it and made some big mistake. And I would agree. And I've been there. But what do you tell somebody that's like, and this is how I've handled it. I always push back and say, your risk tolerance, I can't tell you what that is, right?
Yep.
Because I don't know your specific situation. But if we have a person that's like, let's say in their early 30s and they have a young family and they've left their corporate job and they've got some money and they've invested it to either start a business or they want to buy a business. Like I mean, I had a client that, was leaning in hard to buy this business that I thought was horrible and wasn't worth half of what they were going to pay for it. And I was like, maybe this discussion is more about your responsibility as an advisor than you're teaching someone's risk tolerance, because I don't know how to separate out when they're asking my advice, even though I'm telling them that's nuts. But what if I'm telling them, hey, it looks pretty good. Da, 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 da. We've looked at the numbers. You're responsible. You're interjecting.
At some level, yes.
At some level, you're bringing risk into their life, right? If you're advising them,
you're supporting a decision. Yes. That's
so.
Right. Yep.
I'm going to develop this. I'm going to have a test that I can give someone that says, answer these questions. And you've seen it before. This kind of risk tolerance. You're answering these questions. This is going to tell me what your risk tolerance is. And based on that, if your risk tolerance is a 5, let's say, and you bring a deal to me and you want me to analyze it for you, I'm going to base it based on this risk tolerance. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But you don't have a risk tolerance of 8. You've got a 5.
Yeah.
This is not a 5. This deal is not a 5. And I don't know. Maybe that's the way to do it.
You're figuring what you're doing to mix all these metaphors here.
Yes.
Is you're figuring out where their 10, if it's a 1 to 10 scale, you're figuring out where 10 currently is their 10.
For them. Yes.
As it relates to your scale. Right?
Yeah, because my scale's crazy. My scale is
different.
Off the charts. Yeah.
I guarantee you, we both know people who would look at your scale and say, okay, this guy's 10 is a 6 for me.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, or 3. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Right, and that's okay. Right? But,
yes.
Now at least you framed it, and I think if I were in your shoes as the coach, I would tell them where their 10 is versus your 10, and make it clear that your 10 is not some billionaire's 10 or whatever, whatever.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
whatever.
Matter. Yeah. Well, I'm going to let them. But
at least it lets you make decisions.
Yes. I'm talking this through, which is great. And this is just what business therapy is, because good therapists say, well, what do you think about that? Or how do you feel about that?
Exactly.
That's right. And then you pay them. But so if I develop this, 10 questions or 5 question thing that basically, I'm sure I could have AI help me do this.
Yeah, I assume you will.
Yes. Answer these questions, and we're going to come up with what's your risk? What's the scale that you use? What's risky according to you? Then I can use that as a gauge when they're asking me to advise them on specific scenarios. Does that make sense?
It does. And I would say, as the coach here, give them the test again certainly every year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because things are going to change.
It will change as you build confidence.
Yes.
Right.
Just
your
like
risk.
Just like with my pain, where my scale recalibrated, I remember a moment where my risk scale recalibrated. We needed, and I know I've told this story to you before, and I'm pretty sure it's been here on this show. We joined ComScore. So this is my ComScore gamble, and it failed. It absolutely failed. ComScore, at the time, we weren't doing podcasts. We were only doing web ads, or we were doing some podcasts. But the majority of our business was display ads on the web. And ComScore was like, well, all the big buyers use us as their clearinghouse. They're like Nielsen, but for web ads, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're not listed with us, there's people that won't even talk to you. I was like, crap.
Got it.
And they're like, I was like, okay, well, how do I get registered with you? Blah, 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 blah. Wouldn't you want me registered with you anyway so that you can sell this data to them? They're like, yes, we do want you registered. It costs $35,000 a year to do this. And you pay it all up front.
Yeah,
right.
Of course you do.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, crap. And I was like, fine, let's do it. And so I committed I looked at it and I was like, at the time that was like a base salary for a salesperson. Of course, salespeople, most of their income comes from commissions.
Yeah, commissions.
So I was like, all right, so I'm giving up the base. I framed it in a way that made sense to me. I know what costs $35,000. It's the base salary of a salesperson. Okay, great. Okay, is this smart for the business to pay for that versus paying a base salary of another salesperson? Is this going to pay off for us? I did all the, I pros and cons. I swatted it, right? And I decided yes. I decided wrong. For our business, it did not pay off, but we survived. Like that,
Yes.
I needed to know. This is something we'd been hemming and hawing on for years, and I needed to know. And there were two really interesting things that came out of that. The first was that night, my kids were in like elementary school. And I was having that moment that a lot of parents had about how the F are we going to pay for college? And that night, I realized we're going to figure it out. Just like I'm going to figure out how to pay for this ComScore thing, I'm going to figure out college. And I did not worry about college from that day forward.
Good for
and
you.
My kids are now finished with college.
Yeah, it's
mostly,
awesome.
Let's say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But that was the day. And I didn't make that decision in order to free my mind of this college concern, but it worked.
No.
And the other thing that I learned, and it was a thing that I know I've said on this show before because I'm a big Rush fan and I like to quote Rush songs, was what I call the complacency risk, which is also the free will risk because it quotes Rush's song Free Will, which is if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Meaning for those 2 years prior that I had not chosen ComScore, it wasn't that I had deferred the decision. It was that I had chosen not to do it.
That was the inaction was the action.
Inaction is the action. Correct. So beware of the complacency risk too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I appreciate everyone listening to me and you talking through it because now I think I have a sense of how to present this in an authentic way. That's what I'm trying to do. Right?
Yes.
I'm always folks like, hey, I want to add value, and I don't want to tell you to do something. I want to give you the information, and you can decide based on certain guardrails, if you will, when it comes to risk. And so I think if I can work on this and develop this short, poll or survey, if you will, where they can answer these questions, then I can give it back to them and say, right now, to me, it looks like to me you have a risk, you're on the risk scale an 8. So maybe, and then we could look at actions that you take and deals that you buy and risks, because all of it comes with risk, whether you're hiring new people, paying ComScore to $35. Every day you're taking
$35,000.
$35,000, not $35. It would have been a very big risk at 35. But yeah, all of it comes with risk. And so assessing and understanding your risk tolerance is really important. Because
and I think you as the coach will, by using this framework, you'll be able to be not just authentic, but fully transparent. You won't be telling people what you would do if you were in their shoes.
That's what I'm trying to get away from.
You'd be telling people you are in your shoes, and here's what we have defined. Here's what we know about your shoes.
Yeah.
And therefore, someone in your shoes would A, not choose, or B, choose to make this decision.
And I think I'll assign actual alter egos to each of the levels. Like maybe level 10 is a pirate and say, well, dude, you're a pirate. You can, whatever.
But
and level 1 will be something, maybe it's an Amish person or something. I don't know. Whatever. I have nothing against Amish people, but
I have nothing against pirates. It's fine.
Yeah. Some sort of scale.
Actually, I guess I do. But
yes, pirates people. But anyway, so that's great. I would love your feedback at businessbrain.show. If you want to give me some advice that will help make my advisory business better, I'd love to hear it. Thanks for listening. Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Like he said, feedback at businessbrain.show. Make sure you check out fastmail.com/businessbrain. Thanks for listening, folks. Share the show with a friend. We'll see you next week. Keep living that charmed life. All right, we're out. Cool. Yeah.
There's about 75 people watching the stream. I'm going to end the stream right now. Thank you for hanging out with us for an hour. And we have episode, if you want to listen to the episode after it goes through the fabulous Auphonic magic, you can listen tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time or Friday. And it comes out in all your favorite podcast apps.
Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for hanging out. Take care.